My 5-year-old nephew called me a Brokie at Christmas dinner, so I took back every single gift.
Hi, I'm Roman, 34, and this Christmas I learned that even preschoolers can be little capitalists raised by wolves. It started normal. Christmas normal. I drove 2 hours with a trunk full of carefully wrapped gifts, hand-picked, mind you, not Amazon dumped the night before. My sister, Melissa, was hosting again, which meant sparkling wine before noon and passive-aggressive jokes about my bachelor lifestyle. I hadn't even taken my coat off before her kid, Mason, 5 years old, somehow already smug, looked me up and down like I was a caterer who showed up late. "You don't even have kids," he said, pouting. "Why are you even here?" Melissa just laughed from the kitchen. "He's in a mood," she said. "Ignore him." But then, dinner came. The table was set, gifts piled under the tree. The adults buzzed from their third glass. I passed Mason a wrapped box with Hot Wheels inside. Rare ones, too, straight from a collector's shop, the kind I would have killed for at his age. He took it, didn't even open it, just squinted up at me and said, "We don't need your Brokie stuff." I blinked, thought maybe I misheard. But then Melissa gave this tight-lipped smile, shrugged, and went back to sipping her wine like her demon seed hadn't just body-slammed my dignity in front of a glazed ham. And that's when it clicked. They didn't deserve these gifts. So while everyone laughed and chomped and fought over stuffing, I started collecting, quietly, stealth mode. One by one, I picked up every single gift I had brought, 12 total, and walked them back out to my car like I was doing casual squats with their entitlement. Nobody said anything until I was sliding the last box into the trunk. Then all hell broke loose. Melissa came outside first, wine glass in hand, heels crunching in the frosty gravel. "Roman, what are you doing?" she asked, fake laughing like I was pulling some hilarious uncle bit. "Are you seriously taking back the presents?" I didn't even look up at her, just gently slid the last bag onto the back seat. "Yeah, I am." She blinked. "Over what? A kid being a kid?" I shut the door. "He called me Brokie, Melissa." She rolled her eyes. "He doesn't even know what that means." I stared at her. "He used it correctly. He said, and I quote, 'We don't need your Brokie stuff.' That didn't come from Sesame Street. That came from you." That hit. Her smile faltered, but then the defense kicked in. "Oh my God, Roman, are you seriously this dramatic? You're what, 34? Grow up." Now I laughed. Not fake laugh. Real, bitter, chest-deep laugh. "Yeah, I'm 34. I pay my bills. I remembered everyone's sizes, allergies, and favorite colors. I hand-wrapped gifts with twine and wax seals like a damned Etsy dad. And your kid, opened his mouth and called me broke before he even opened the box." She crossed her arms. "You're ruining Christmas." "No," I said. "You ruined it when you taught a 5-year-old that money makes someone worth listening to." Just then, Mason wandered out the front door, half-eaten sugar cookie in one hand, his other arm dragging my nephew Theo's unopened Lego set like it was a sack of trash. "Where's my other presents?" he asked, squinting. Melissa turned, snapping her fingers. "Go back inside, Mason, now!" He didn't move, just sulked like he was starting to understand he had gone off script. I crouched down. "Hey, buddy. I know I'm just the broke uncle, but you don't talk to people like that. Not the mailman, not your teacher, especially not the guy who drove 2 hours to give you cool stuff." He didn't respond, just sulked. I stood up and looked back at Melissa, who had gone quiet. She opened her mouth to say something, but before she could, the front door flew open, and out came my mom holding a half-carved turkey leg like a sword. "Oh, you've got to be kidding me," she said, eyes locking on the empty space under the tree. "Mom," I said calmly, "I brought the gifts. I can take them home." She glared at Melissa. "What happened?"
Melissa threw up her hands. "He's being ridiculous. Mason said one thing." "He called him a Brokie," I said. My mom paused. "Mason said that?" Verbatim. And just like that, the mood shifted. Because my mom might be sweet and patient and borderline obsessed with Hallmark movies, but she's also the woman who once returned a Christmas ham because the store staff didn't smile at her. Respect is her love language, and disrespect, well, she turned to Melissa, voice ice cold. Then maybe you should sit your son down and teach him some manners before next Christmas. Roman, sweetheart, prop the trunk. I'll help you carry the gifts inside, to your place. And suddenly, I wasn't the dramatic one. I was the escape pod. Back inside, the mood had gone from festive to full-blown funeral. No one was laughing now. No carols, no clinking glasses, not even the usual hum of someone sneaking thirds from the dessert table. Just tense silence, and Mason sulking in a corner, mumbling about lame adults. My mom followed me in like backup, still holding the turkey leg like she might club someone with it. Melissa trailed behind, clearly trying to save face in front of the rest of the family, who'd started whispering like we were on the set of a reality show called Yuletide Meltdowns Family Edition. "I'm just saying," Melissa kept repeating. "It was a joke. Kids repeat stuff. We don't filter every little thing they say." That's exactly the problem. You don't filter. You don't correct. You sit there sipping your wine while your 5-year-old insults the people who love him. "I'm sorry," said Melissa, finally, but the way she said it, flat, like a refund policy, didn't land. Dad was still in the recliner, half watching Die Hard on mute, and gave me a thumbs up as I walked past. He hadn't moved all evening, but now he turned and said, "Roman, you want to take some leftovers with you?" "Sure, but only if I can Venmo you to prove I'm solvent." He laughed, bless him. I went to grab my coat when Theo, my other nephew, Melissa's quieter older kid, tugged my sleeve. He looked kind of pale, eyes darting between his mom and me. "I'm really sorry Mason said that," he whispered. "I liked my present last year. The model airplane, it's still on my shelf." I knelt down beside him. "Hey, I know you're not like that. And for the record, I got you something this year too, but I think maybe you'll get it a little later." He nodded, quiet. Then he glanced toward the tree and added, "Mom told Mason that Uncle Roman never brings anything nice. That's why he said it. She says it when you're not here." And there it was. Truth grenade. I looked up. Melissa had frozen halfway to the fridge, staring like she'd just heard the one thing she didn't want out loud. Theo immediately looked guilty, like he'd betrayed some ancient sibling pact. "It's okay," I said, ruffling his hair. "That was very honest of you." And honestly, that was the moment something in me shifted. It wasn't just a bratty 5-year-old or one wine-soaked comment. It was years of being the fun uncle who was good for a few jokes but not quite respected. Melissa had always treated me like I was stalling out, just a guy who hadn't arrived, because I didn't have a wife or a mortgage or a goddamn Peloton in the guest room. And fine, maybe I wasn't any of those things. But I was done bringing my presence and my presence to people who mistook kindness for weakness. I stood up, looked around the room, and said, "All right, well, Merry Christmas, everyone. Catch you next year." Melissa shouted after me, something about overreacting and airing family stuff, but I was already at the door. I got in my car, turned on the engine, and looked at the pile of gifts stacked in my passenger seat. Then I smiled. I had a better idea. I didn't go home. Instead, I took a detour, 20 minutes through icy back roads to the other side of town.
Pulled into the parking lot of a rundown community center that looked like someone had duct-taped a gym to a church basement and called it a day. Lights were still on. Inside, I found Sandy, the wiry woman who runs the after-school program there. We'd met once during a fundraiser. She had the energy of someone who'd fought in 3 wars and knitted her own socks between airstrikes. "Roman," she blinked, setting down a plastic bin of tinsel. "What in the world?" "I've got gifts," I said, holding up a bag. "A lot of them." Her eyebrows went up. "Okay, and you're just donating them? Tonight?" "Long story," I said. "Short version, they were for people who don't say thank you. Figured they'd be better here." She didn't ask questions, just grabbed a folding table and started helping me unload. Within minutes, we had a little makeshift Christmas spread going. Hot Wheels, Lego sets, bath bombs, puzzles, books, a really nice scarf I'd gotten for my cousin Jenna, who once called me basically unemployed because I freelance. Sandy handed me a mug of lukewarm cider from a crock pot that had clearly seen war. "You want to help pass them out? We've got a group coming in tomorrow morning. Kids from the shelter." I nodded, and for the first time that night, I felt something close to peace. We sat in the empty rec room afterwards, sipping cider, watching the snow start to fall through the drafty windows. "I take it your Christmas didn't go well." I chuckled. "Kid called me a Brokie." Sandy snorted. "Man, even poverty's got PR now." I laughed harder than I had in weeks, and something loosened in my chest, not just from tonight, but from all the Christmases I'd spent trying to prove myself. The carefully selected gifts, the unreciprocated effort, the silent acceptance that I'd always be a second-tier adult in Melissa's eyes. But out here, among peeling linoleum floors and half-strung fairy lights, I felt more valued than I had in that whole suburban circus. I left the center close to midnight, colder than before, but lighter. When I got home, I lit a candle, sat on my couch, and opened the one gift I had kept for myself, a little book of quotes I'd found in a used shop. Inside the front cover was a note I'd forgotten I'd written when I bought it. "To future me, you're doing just fine. Don't let anyone cheapen the currency of your kindness." I smiled. Then I turned off my phone. Let him talk. By noon the next day, I was back at the community center. The kids arrived in waves, some with their moms, some dropped off by volunteers. I helped carry coats, poured cocoa, untangled a disastrous mess of tinsel someone had tried to make look like garland. The place was chaos, but the good kind, the kind where no one cared if your boots tracked in snow or if your hot chocolate had more marshmallows than liquid. Sandy handed me a Santa hat that looked like it had been through at least 2 divorces. "Put it on, you're not escaping the photo wall." I grinned and did as I was told. Then came the best part, the gifts. We'd set them all out in sections, letting each kid shop based on what they liked. A little girl named Janelle lost her mind over the unicorn bath bomb set I'd originally bought for my cousin. A pair of brothers spent 10 solid minutes losing their minds over the same Hot Wheels car Mason had refused to even open. Every time someone picked something, they'd look up with this wide-eyed, stunned expression, like they weren't quite sure it was really for them. A little boy with the biggest ears I've ever seen picked up the Lego set I'd grabbed for Theo. He held it like a sacred object. "This is the real kind," he whispered. "Sure is. Can I keep it?" "It's yours, buddy." He smiled, the kind of smile that punches you in the lungs. Then ran over to his mom, yelling, "Look what I got! It's real!" That was it. I had to step into the hallway and wipe my eyes like I'd been chopping invisible onions in the break room. I stayed until the last of the cocoa ran out and the kids had been herded back into vans and SUVs. Sandy leaned against the doorframe next to me, sipping what had to be her 7th coffee. "I know you probably didn't plan your Christmas going this way," she said, "but for what it's worth, I think it turned out better." "Yeah," I said, "it really did." Then she raised an eyebrow. "So, you gonna tell me what really happened?" I laughed. "Long version?" "Always." So I told her about Melissa, the wine, the Brokie comment, the 12 silent years of being the family background character, how none of them even texted afterward. Not a single "where'd you go?" or "thanks anyway." Sandy didn't flinch. "Some families run on tradition," she said. "Some run on ego. Yours sounds like it's doing donuts in the second lane." "I don't think I'm going back next year." She raised her cup. "Then you're officially invited here. We run on actual gratitude and off-brand candy canes." I clinked my paper cup to hers. When I got home that night, there was one unread text waiting on my phone. From Theo. "Hey, I told Mason you were cool. He said sorry, but I don't think he meant it. I did. Merry Christmas, Uncle R." I stared at it for a long time. Then I sent him a photo. That little boy with the Lego box grinning like he just won the lottery. "Merry Christmas, Theo. I found someone who really wanted your present. Hope that's okay? 3 dots. Then, that's more than okay. Tell him to build the spaceship. The instructions are in Spanish, but he'll figure it out. The week after Christmas, silence. No calls, no texts. Not from Melissa, not from my parents, not even from my cousin Jenna, who usually sends her annual "sorry we didn't talk more" message to everyone like it's a breakup apology. It was refreshing. I spent those days reorganizing my apartment, binging detective shows, and doing absolutely nothing that involved small talk over cheese trays. Every now and then I'd reread Theo's message and feel that tiny ache in the chest. That kid deserved better. But I wasn't about to apologize for finally saying no to being treated like an ATM with sarcasm. Then, on New Year's Eve, my mom called. I let it go to voicemail. Not out of spite, I just needed to know I could. She left a long message, full of sighs and that tone moms use when they want to sound neutral, but you know they're 2 glasses deep and leaning on the dishwasher for support. "Hi, honey. Just wanted to say I've been thinking about you. Melissa is still upset, but I told her she needs to look at the bigger picture. Mason is, well, he's 5, and he hears things, but we do appreciate you. I know sometimes it doesn't seem like it. Anyway, your dad says hi. We're watching that weird Netflix show with the murders you like. Hope you're okay. Call me." I didn't call back. I sent her a thumbs up emoji and left it at that. At midnight, I toasted myself with cheap champagne and turned on the fake fireplace loop on my TV. I was alone, but it didn't feel lonely. It felt quiet, like a door had finally closed without slamming. A few days later, Sandy texted, "We're hosting a New Year's brunch at the center. You better show up or I'll send a van." I showed up. Same chaos, same kids, same chipped mugs of lukewarm cider. But there was warmth in it. A kind of honest, scrappy joy that didn't care what brand your shoes were or whether your income came with benefits. Sandy pulled me aside after we cleaned up. "So," she said, "I've got a weird idea." I raised an eyebrow. I like weird ideas. "You ever thought about volunteering here? Not just Christmas, regularly." I blinked. "Like helping out with the after-school stuff?" "Yeah, the boys really liked you. You've got that cool uncle vibe." "Funny, at my family's house that's code for hasn't settled down yet." She grinned. "Here it means shows up when it counts." I didn't say yes, not yet, but something about it stuck with me the whole drive home. That night, I sat on my couch again. Same candle, same quote book. I flipped to a random page. "You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate." That one landed. It made me think about Melissa, about how many years I've been showing up, smiling through digs, playing the role she'd assigned me without ever auditioning for it. Then I thought about Mason. Little dude wasn't evil. He was a mirror, reflecting the things he'd absorbed without knowing what they meant. And what he saw in me, what he thought he saw, came directly from the way his mom talked about me when I wasn't in the room. He didn't need discipline. He needed new material. I grabbed my phone and did something wild. I called Theo. He picked up on the second ring. "Uncle Roman?" "Hey, bud. Quick question. How do you feel about helping me plan something?" He perked up immediately. "Like what?" "Like a gift drive. Next year. Bigger, better, kid-led." He was quiet for a second. Then, "Can we call it Operation Not Brokie?" I laughed so hard I nearly dropped the phone. "You're in charge of branding, kid." 3 weeks into January, I was knee-deep in plastic bins filled with donated toys, half-labeled spreadsheets, and one extremely enthusiastic 11-year-old calling me every 2 days with marketing updates. Theo had opinions, strong ones, about fonts, flyer designs, and whether Not Brokie should have a mascot. He voted for a ninja raccoon named Rick who steals back kindness. I didn't argue. We called it Operation Not Brokie, and I wasn't sure if it was actually going to work until it did. First, Theo got his class involved. Then his teacher asked if I'd be willing to come in and talk about what the drive was for.
I gave a short little presentation about helping kids who don't get Christmas, and ended up getting invited to speak at 2 other schools. I was still just Roman, the guy with the beat-up hatchback and 0 social media presence. But now I was also something else. The guy who showed up, with purpose. Even Sandy was surprised. "You got half the PTA calling me asking how to donate," she said one afternoon as we loaded another round of early gift bags into the storage closet. "Are you sure you weren't a youth pastor in a past life?" "Nope, just chronically overlooked and emotionally available," she snorted. And Melissa, still silent. I hadn't heard a word from her since that night. But then, out of nowhere, a card showed up at my apartment. No return address, but the handwriting was hers. Inside was one line. "I shouldn't have let him say that. I shouldn't have said it either. You were right." No apology, but not nothing either. I left the card on the counter. I didn't need more than that. A few nights later, Theo called again. "Guess what?" he said, giddy. "What?" "Mason asked if he could help next year." I blinked. "Seriously?" "Yeah, he said he wants to pick out toys that aren't lame, but like in a nice way." Sounds like progress. He told me he can't say the word Brokie ever again. Solid rule. Thea was quiet for a second, then asked, "Hey, Uncle R?" "Yeah? Are you still mad at them?" I thought about it. Then I said, "I'm not mad. I'm just done trying to earn something I should have gotten for free." "Like respect?" "Exactly." He was quiet again, but this time it felt lighter, settled. "Okay," he said. "Well, you got mine." And somehow that mattered more than anything. Easter rolled around before I heard Melissa's voice again. I was at the community center helping prep for the spring carnival, which, thanks to Theo's now full-blown obsession with organizing events, had ballooned into a mini festival with food trucks, bouncy castles, and one very overwhelmed clown. When she called, I stared at the screen for a long time before answering. "Roman?" she said, cautious. Hey. I heard about the toy drive." Of course she did. We made the local news. Sandy framed the article in the lobby. It was Theo's idea. I figured.
Pause. "Listen, I've been thinking a lot since Christmas. About Mason. About me." I didn't say anything. She sighed. "I was embarrassed, not just by what he said, by how easy it was for him to say it, and that I laughed. You were right, he got it from me." Still, I stayed quiet. "I used to be proud of you, you know," she said. "When we were younger, I bragged about my big brother who traveled and had weird jobs and always knew the best bands. I didn't need the nostalgia. I just needed her to own it. And then, somewhere along the way," she continued, "I started seeing you the way I thought adults were supposed to see you, like you were stuck." I finally spoke. "You raised a kid who thought kindness was cheap." "I know. That's why I'm calling. To say I'm sorry. Really, no defense. Just sorry." I exhaled, long and slow. Not because everything was forgiven, but because this time it didn't feel like I needed it to be. "Thanks," I said. "I'd like to come to the next drive," she added. "Help out. Mason, too. He's been better. He's 6 now. Still a little monster, but we're working on it." "That's between you and your therapist," I said, smirking. She laughed. "Fair." We hung up. I stood in the parking lot a while, letting the breeze hit my face. Then Theo came bounding over, holding a clipboard. "Uncle Roman, we need more cups for lemonade, and Rick the raccoon's head fell off again." "On it," I said, and I meant it. That night, I walked past the stack of presents I kept in my closet, spares for when things came up, and I realized I wasn't bitter anymore. I hadn't just taken the gifts back. I'd taken myself back and given him, the quiet, thoughtful, funny guy I used to be, to people who finally saw the value, not in the wrapping, not in the price tag, but in the person who showed up every time.